The desert was silent, only the sound of wind moving through broken rocks. The human explorer named Daniel stepped carefully, his boots pressing into the dust of the unknown planet. He was alone, his ship damaged, his radio dead. He searched for anything useful, maybe parts, maybe signs of water. Then he heard it at first. He thought it was the wind, but no, the sound was too sharp, too weak. It was a voice, faint, trembling. "I can't breathe." Daniel froze. His heart raced, his hand gripped the small plasma cutter at his belt. A voice meant someone was alive, but who? Or what? Slowly he followed the sound, his steps grew faster. His breath caught in his throat around a pile of twisted metal. Blackened by fire, he found the source, a body half buried under the wreckage. Pale arms stretched out, thin fingers moving weakly. The chest rose and fell. Shallow, desperate, the voice again, softer this time. "I can't breathe." Daniel knelt down. His eyes widened as he brushed away the dust from the figure's face. It was a woman, not human, yet close enough to make his heart stumble. Her skin shimmered with a faint silver glow. Her hair was dark and tangled with wires. And her eyes, half open, glowed faint blue. She looked fragile, almost breakable. For a moment, Daniel forgot to breathe himself. He had seen aliens before in pictures and records, but never this close. Never like this. She looked too human, too alive, too beautiful. It shook him, but her lips trembled. Her skin turned darker around the edges. She was suffocating, he realized quickly. The atmosphere here was not hers. She needed help. Daniel pushed against the wreckage. The sharp edges cut into his gloves. Sparks flew as he shoved the broken panel aside. The cover finally lifted with a metallic scream. And there she was, lying fully exposed, her body trembling. Her breath shallow. Daniel's heart stopped for a moment. Not from fear, but from shock. He had expected a monster, a creature. But what he saw looked almost human. She was thin, wounded, dressed in torn armor that looked like woven glass. Her chest plate was cracked, glowing faintly as if energy was leaking. Her eyes met his, weak but still holding light. And in that instant, Daniel felt something strange. He should have been afraid, he should have left her, but instead...
He felt the need to save her. "I can't breathe,"
she whispered again. Daniel cursed under his breath. He looked around. His survival pack was back at his shelter. He had nothing here but a broken mask and his own lungs. Still, he made a choice. He pulled out his portable oxygen tank, a small emergency one he carried, and pressed the valve. He didn't know if it would help her species, but he had to try. He placed the mask close to her lips. She gasped, the blue glow in her eyes flickering brighter. Her body shivered as she pulled in the air. Her breathing steadied a little. Daniel sighed in relief, but fear returned quickly. How long would the small tank last? Minutes? Maybe less. He would have to move her carefully. He slid his arms under her. She was lighter than he expected, almost weightless. Her head fell against his chest. He felt her warmth. Fragile and trembling as he stood up, he felt the world grow heavier, not just from carrying her, but from the thought of what this meant. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why did she crash here alone? The wind howled through the wreckage, sharp and cold. Daniel glanced around. He thought he saw movement in the shadows, but when he looked again, it was gone still. Unease crawled up his spine. He started walking back toward his camp. His steps quick but careful. The alien woman's hand twitched against his chest. As if holding on to him, her faint voice came again. Broken, weak. "Don't let them find me." Daniel froze. The words cut through him. Who was them? Why was she hiding? He looked back at the wreckage. Smoke rose into the air like a signal. Whoever shot her down, if that was the case, might already be searching. His heart pounded harder. He gripped her closer. His eyes scanned the dark horizon, and in that moment, Daniel knew his life had just changed. He was no longer just a stranded human. He was now the protector of something. Someone that could bring danger or hope. The silence of the desert returned, but Daniel felt eyes watching from afar. He whispered to himself, "What did I just get myself into?" The alien woman shivered in his arms, her faint glow reflecting against his face. The emergency oxygen tank hissed, running low. Time was slipping away. Suspense filled the air like a storm about to break. Daniel tightened his hold and hurried into the endless desert night, unaware that every step was leading him deeper into a story that would change the fate of two worlds. Daniel's arms ached as he carried the alien woman through the desert night. The sand crunched under his boots. His lungs burned, but he did not slow down. The small oxygen tank hissed beside her lips, every second bringing it closer to empty. Her body was light, but the weight of the moment pressed on him. He looked at her face half hidden in the shadows. Her skin glowed faint silver, fading with every shallow breath. The strange blue of her eyes flickered weakly. Daniel muttered, "Just hold on, almost there." His camp was not far, a small shelter built from parts of his broken ship. But in the dark silence, every step felt endless. The alien's voice came again, faint, broken. "Don't stop." Her hand twitched weakly against his chest. Daniel swallowed hard. He was not used to protecting anyone. He had been alone for months, surviving on scraps and luck, but now, this woman had dropped into his life like a storm. The oxygen tank sputtered. Daniel's heart jumped. He moved faster. His camp finally came into view, half buried in sand. A faint light glowing from inside, he rushed in, placing her gently on the cot. Inside, the air was thin but filtered. It was not perfect, but better than outside. Daniel grabbed an extra oxygen mask from his pack. He adjusted it carefully over her face, praying it would help. The alien gasped, her chest rising deeper now. Her body shook as air filled her lungs. Then slowly, her breathing steadied. Daniel let out a long breath. His knees felt weak. He sat beside her, watching, waiting. For a while, there was silence. Only the sound of her breathing filled the small shelter. Daniel leaned back against the wall, his mind racing. Who was she? Why had she crashed here? And who were the ones she feared? Her eyes opened again, faint but clearer. She looked at him, studying his face. Her lips moved, whispering words he almost didn't understand. Why? Save me? Daniel blinked. He could not explain it. He barely understood it himself. Because you were dying, he said softly. And I was here. Her gaze lingered on him. Then slowly she nodded. A tear, faint and shimmering like liquid crystal, slid down her cheek before Daniel could speak again. A sharp sound echoed outside the shelter. His body tensed. He reached for his plasma cutter. The sound came again, like metal scraping against rock. He moved to the entrance, peering out into the night. The desert stretched silent and endless, but far off. He saw movement, shadows shifting unnaturally. His chest tightened. Were they already here? The them she had spoken of. He returned quickly to her side. Who's out there? He asked in a low voice. Her eyes widened in fear. She tried to sit up, but her body was too weak. Her lips moved, whispering. Hunters. The word sent a chill through Daniel's spine. Hunters, not animals, not scavengers. Something worse. The alien woman grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. If they find me, you die too. Daniel met her glowing eyes, his jaw tightened. He had a choice. He could leave her, run into the desert, maybe survive alone, or he could stay, fight, and risk everything for a stranger. But deep inside, he already knew his answer. He could not walk away, not after hearing her voice, not after carrying her through the night. He gently pulled her hand free and said, Then we'll make sure they don't find us. He moved quickly, shutting down the small light in the shelter. Darkness wrapped around them. He adjusted the air filters to reduce noise. Every sound seemed louder now, her breathing, his heartbeat, the faint scrape outside. The alien woman whispered again, her voice trembling. They follow my scent. Daniel frowned, his eyes darted around. He had no way to hide her scent, no way to erase the trail. His mind raced. He needed time. Then a loud thud shook the sand outside like heavy steps. Daniel's grip on his plasma cutter tightened. He crouched near the entrance, ready. His eyes burned with focus. The alien's hand reached toward him, her voice barely a breath. You should run. Daniel looked at her, fragile yet glowing faint in the dark, and shook his head. Not a chance, he whispered. The shadows outside grew darker, shapes moving closer. Strange clicking sounds filled the air. The hunters were near. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. But deep inside, something stronger rose, a fire, a stubborn will. The same human spirit that had kept him alive this long. He looked back at her one last time. Her eyes shone faintly, filled with fear and something else. Hope. Daniel whispered to himself. If they want you, they'll have to go through me. The night held its breath. The hunters drew closer, and Daniel prepared for the fight that would decide both their fates. The desert night was silent, but Daniel could feel the danger pressing in from all sides. His hand stayed tight on the plasma cutter. The alien woman lay weak on the cot. Her faint glow the only light in the dark shelter, he whispered. Stay quiet. though he wasn't sure she even understood. Outside, the strange clicking sounds grew louder. The shadows moved, low and fast, like predators circling. Daniel's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. He knew the hunters were close, too close, then suddenly, the noise stopped. Silence. Complete and heavy. It was worse than the sound. Daniel held his breath, waiting. The alien woman stirred. Her eyes opened, glowing faint blue. She whispered something in her own language. The sound sharp and fluid, Daniel couldn't understand. But the fear in her tone said enough. He leaned closer, speaking low. "You need to tell me what they are. I don't understand you." Her weak hands moved in the air. Drawing strange shapes, her lips repeated words. Slow, broken killers. Hunt. Blood. Daniel understood fragments. Hunters that killed for blood. His stomach tightened. He needed to communicate with her better, or they would both die. He grabbed a piece of metal scrap from his pack and dragged lines into the sand floor. He drew a circle, then a stick figure of himself. He pointed to it. "Me," he said firmly. She blinked, then nodded faintly, her voice rasping. "Huh." Man, Daniel's eyebrows raised. She knew the word, even if broken, he repeated. "Yes. Human." Then he pointed to her, tilting his head. Her lips trembled, she hesitated, then whispered a word soft but clear. "Ailari." Daniel repeated slowly. "Elari," tasting the sound on his tongue. She nodded weakly. Something shifted between them. A fragile bridge of understanding. She pointed shakily to the wall, then made a clawing motion, her voice strained. "Hun. There's want me." Daniel frowned. "Why?" he asked, tapping his chest, then pointing to her. "Why you?" Her glowing eyes softened as if she understood his question. Her hands moved to her chest, pressing over the cracked armor where a faint light pulsed. She whispered, "Core. Inside me." Daniel's eyes widened. He didn't know what core meant, but it was important. He realized she carried something powerful, something worth hunting before he could ask more. The scraping sound returned outside, closer, heavier. The shelter walls trembled faintly. The hunters were right at the edge. Daniel's pulse raced. He turned to her quickly, whispering, "If they get in, we fight, do you understand?" "Fight." He mimed, holding a weapon. She tried to sit up, but her body shook. She coughed, then forced out the word, "No. Run." Daniel clenched his jaw. He looked at her, this fragile being who had already given up, and felt a stubborn fire rise inside him. He shook his head, whispering harshly, "Humans don't run." Her eyes widened slightly at his tone. A flicker of light moved in them, like respect or disbelief. The scraping grew louder. Daniel stood ready, plasma cutter in hand. He whispered again, "Stay behind me." The first strike came like thunder. The wall of the shelter shook, dust falling from above. A second strike followed, harder. Daniel gritted his teeth. The alien woman whispered something in her language, a soft chant. Her voice weak but steady. Daniel didn't understand the words, but they gave him strange strength. The wall cracked, a sharp claw punched through. Daniel jumped back, plasma cutter raised. His breath caught, the hunters were breaking in. Through the hole, a pair of glowing red eyes stared inside. The sound of hissing breath filled the air. Daniel's heart slammed in his chest. He swung the plasma cutter, sparks flying as the claw withdrew. The creature screeched outside. The alien woman gasped, whispering, "Too many!" Daniel looked at her, then at the broken wall. He knew she was right. They couldn't fight them all. Not like this. He moved quickly, grabbing her with one arm, his gear with the other. "We're leaving," he said, even if she didn't understand. She weakly clung to him as he lifted her again, her voice trembled. "Danger."
Outside.
Daniel took a deep breath. "Yeah, I know." He kicked open the back exit hatch of the shelter, the one he had made months ago in case of fire. The cold desert air rushed in. He stepped out, the alien woman in his arms behind them. The hunters crashed into the shelter, the sound of tearing metal echoing in the night. Daniel didn't look back. He ran, his boots pounding against the sand. The alien woman pressed her face weakly against his chest. Her voice broke into soft words, half in her language, half in his. "Protect. Together." Daniel's jaw tightened. His eyes burned with determination. He whispered back, "Together." The desert stretched before them, endless and deadly. But Daniel knew one thing, he would not let her die. Not tonight, not while he still breathed. The desert was black and endless, only the faint stars above gave light. Daniel ran as fast as he could, the alien woman in his arms, her weak breathing pressed against his chest. Behind them, The hunters tore through his shelter. Screeches echoed across the dunes. The sound made his blood run cold. He didn't look back, but he could hear the claws scraping, the heavy steps pounding the sand. Just a little more, Daniel muttered to himself. His legs burned, his lungs screamed. But he didn't stop. The alien woman stirred. Her faint blue eyes opened. Her lips trembled. Too close. Daniel tightened his grip. I know, he whispered suddenly. A shadow darted in front of him. A tall, thin figure, its limbs bent wrong. Glowing red eyes fixed on him, the hunter hissed, raising a sharp spear-like weapon. Daniel skidded to a stop. His plasma cutter hummed to life. He lowered the alien woman gently onto the sand. Stay here, he whispered, though he knew she could barely move. The hunter lunged, Daniel dodged. Swinging his cutter, sparks lit the night. The blade cut across the hunter's arm. The creature screeched, black blood spraying into the sand. Daniel's heart raced. He had never fought anything like this before. He moved by instinct, blocking, striking. His arms shook with every clash. The hunter's strength was far beyond his. But Daniel's will burned hotter. Another screech came. A second hunter leaped from the shadows. Daniel's eyes widened. He couldn't fight too. The alien woman raised her hand weakly. Her fingers glowed faint blue. The air around her shimmered. A pulse of light burst out. The second hunter froze mid-leap. Its body locked, trembling, then it collapsed into the sand. Lifeless, Daniel stared in shock. What the hell was that? He whispered. The alien woman's glow faded quickly. She fell back, gasping. The effort had drained her. The first hunter roared in rage. Daniel gritted his teeth. It's just you and me now, he growled. He lunged forward, swinging the plasma cutter with all his strength. The blade cut deep into the hunter's chest. The creature screamed, its body falling backward into the sand. Silence returned, heavy and sharp. Daniel panted hard, his arms shook. He turned quickly, rushing back to the alien woman. She was still alive. But weaker than before, he knelt beside her. You saved me, he whispered. Her faint eyes flickered. She struggled to speak. Power! Inside me, not safe. Daniel understood enough. Her secret was dangerous, and the hunters would not stop until they had it. Suddenly, more screeches echoed in the distance. Dozens, maybe more. Daniel's stomach dropped. That fight was only the beginning. He picked her up again, holding her tightly. We have to move. They crossed the dunes. Daniel stumbling but never stopping, his mind raced. Where could they go? His shelter was gone, the desert offered no safety. Then he remembered a canyon not far from here. A place he had once explored for shelter. Maybe it could hide them. Maybe it could buy them time. He pushed forward, sweat dripping. His body screamed for rest, but his spirit refused. The alien woman stirred again. Her faint voice broke through. Why, help me? Daniel looked down at her glowing eyes. His voice came rough. Because you asked me to. Because no one deserves to die alone. She stared at him, silent, but something changed in her gaze. Not fear this time, trust. They reached the canyon just as the screeches grew louder. Daniel slid down the rocks, sand spilling behind him. He found a hollow at the base, dark and deep. He laid her inside carefully. The hunter's cries echoed above. The sound of claws on stone filled the night. Daniel crouched at the entrance, plasma cutter ready. His heart beat like a drum. The alien woman whispered weakly from the shadows. You fight for me, Daniel nodded once, his jaw tight. For both of us. The first hunter dropped into the canyon, red eyes glowing in the dark. Daniel's grip tightened. His breath steadied. The night was far from over. The attack had only begun, but Daniel felt no fear now. Only fire, because he was human, and humans did not surrender. The canyon walls echoed with every hiss and screech from above. Daniel crouched near the entrance of the hollow, his plasma cutter glowing faint in the dark. Behind him, the alien woman lay weak, her faint blue eyes barely open. The first hunter landed in the canyon, claws digging into the stone. Its red eyes glared, teeth sharp as knives. Daniel's heart pounded, his hands tightened on the weapon. He whispered to himself, not tonight. The hunter charged, Daniel stepped aside. Swinging his cutter, sparks flew. The blade burned through part of the creature's arm. The hunter roared in fury. Swinging back with its other claw, Daniel ducked, the strike missing his head by inches. Behind him, the alien woman whispered something in her own tongue. Her voice soft but urgent. Daniel risked a glance back. Her chest plate glowed brighter. The cracked armor pulsing, the hunter lunged again. Daniel raised the plasma cutter, this time stabbing forward with all his strength. The weapon pierced the hunter's chest. The creature shrieked, its body shuddering before collapsing to the canyon floor. Daniel pulled the weapon free, panting hard. Sweat dripped down his face. He turned quickly to the alien woman. She was trembling, her hands pressed tightly over the cracked armor. Daniel moved closer. "What's happening to you?" he asked, her lips parted, her voice weak but clear this time. "The core inside me. Breaking," Daniel frowned. "Core." He had no idea what that meant, but the fear in her eyes told him it was serious. She slowly lifted her hand, pressing it to her chest. A faint light pulsed beneath her skin. Through the cracked armor, Daniel's eyes widened. It looked like a small star burning inside her. Her voice trembled. "It is life source, power." "Hunters want it," Daniel sat back. His chest heavy, so that was why they chased her. That was why she begged him not to let them find her. She carried something more than just herself. Something alive, something dangerous. "Is it a weapon?" Daniel asked quietly. Her glowing eyes met his. She shook her head slowly. "Not weapon. Creation. New life." Daniel's mouth went dry. He didn't understand all of it, but the weight of her words sank deep. She wasn't just running for herself. She was protecting something greater. Outside, more screeches echoed. The hunters were not done. Shadows moved along the canyon walls. Daniel clenched his fists. They would come again. Stronger. He looked at her, fragile and trembling, and whispered, "If it's life, then I'll protect it too." Her eyes softened. A faint glow brightened in them. For the first time, she didn't look only afraid. She looked relieved, but the ground suddenly shook. Dust rained down from above. Daniel's eyes darted up. More hunters were climbing down the canyon, red eyes glowing like fire in the night. Daniel cursed under his breath. He grabbed his pack, tossing it beside her. "Stay here. Don't move." She reached out weakly, grabbing his wrist. "You can't alone?" Daniel squeezed her hand once. "Firm to watch me," he said, his voice low and steady. He turned to face the canyon mouth as the first of the new hunters leapt down. Their bodies were taller, heavier, armored with thick black plates. They were different from the others, stronger, smarter. Daniel's grip tightened on the plasma cutter. He raised it high, the blue blade humming. His whole body shook with exhaustion, but his spirit burned hotter. The alien woman whispered from the hollow, her voice almost like a prayer. "Human, stubborn." Daniel smirked faintly at her words. "Yeah, that's kind of our thing." The first hunter roared. Rushing forward, Daniel charged to meet it. Sparks lit the night as weapon clashed against claw. Behind him, the alien woman closed her eyes. Pressing both hands over the glowing core, she whispered in her own language, her voice steady despite her weakness. The light inside her chest pulsed brighter, spreading faint waves through the canyon. Daniel felt the air shift, a strange warmth wrapping around him. His strikes grew faster, his arms stronger. The plasma cutter burned brighter than before. He didn't know what she was doing, but he knew one thing: she was giving him strength. He struck hard, cutting through the first hunter's armor. Black blood spilled onto the rocks. The creature collapsed with a final hiss. Daniel turned, facing the others. His breath heavy but his eyes sharp, he whispered, "Come on, then." The canyon filled with screeches as more hunters leapt down. Their shadows stretched long across the sand. But Daniel stood firm, his cutter glowing. The alien woman's light behind him. For the first time, he realized they weren't just fighting to survive the night. They were fighting for something bigger. The secret inside her could change everything, and he would not let it fall into the hands of monsters. Not while he was still alive. The canyon echoed with the screams of dying hunters. Daniel's arms shook as he lowered the plasma cutter. His chest heaved, sweat dripping into his eyes. He had survived another fight. But the night was not finished. Behind him, the alien woman leaned against the stone wall, her body glowing faintly. Her breaths were slow, shallow. Her hands pressed over the cracked armor where the core pulsed like a heartbeat. Daniel moved quickly to her side, dropping to his knees. "We can't stay here," he whispered. His voice was rough, tired, but urgent. Her glowing eyes opened slowly. "More coming," she said. Her words were clearer now. Though broken, Daniel nodded grimly. He looked up at the canyon walls, dark shapes already moving above. Dozens more hunters were gathering. Waiting. He knew if they stayed, they would be trapped. He scooped her into his arms again. She was light, almost weightless, but he could feel the heat from the core burning inside her. Her faint voice brushed his ear. You risk too much, Daniel muttered back. That's survival. And carried her out of the hollow. They climbed the canyon wall using narrow ledges. Daniel's muscles screamed, but he didn't stop. Every screech below reminded him of what would happen if he slowed down. At the top, the desert stretched wide under the cold stars. Endless dunes and sharp rocks, no safety, no cover. But at least there was space to run. Daniel set her down for a moment. Adjusting his pack and we head east, he said, pointing to the horizon. There's an old supply drop site, maybe something we can use. The alien woman looked at him, her weak voice carrying doubt. Hunters, faster. Daniel smirked faintly, though exhaustion lined his face. Then we don't stop. He lifted her again and began to run across the dunes. Sand slipped under his boots, the weight of the night pressing on him. But the thought of stopping was worse. Behind them, the hunters climbed from the canyon. Their red eyes burned in the dark. Their screeches carried across the desert like a storm. The chase had begun. Daniel's breath came in ragged gasps. His body begged him to fall, but his mind refused. He thought of every step he had taken since the crash, every lonely night of survival, and now her. The alien woman clinging weakly to him, her life tied to his. He whispered to himself, "Humans keep going. That's what we do." The alien stirred in his arms. Her faint eyes looked up at him. "Why, fight for me?" she asked again. Daniel's jaw tightened. He didn't slow. His answer came low but steady. "Because you matter. Even if you don't think so." She stared at him silent, her eyes shimmered faintly. Then she whispered one word, soft but heavy. "Together." The hunters closed in. Their shapes darted across the sand. Moving with inhuman speed, Daniel glanced back, his chest tightening. They were too fast, he couldn't outrun them forever. Then he spotted it, jagged rocks rising ahead. A broken cliff with shadows at its base, maybe cover, maybe a place to lose them. He pushed harder, legs burning as they neared the cliff. A hunter leapt from the side, cutting off their path. Daniel cursed, twisting his body. He rolled across the sand, shielding the alien woman. The hunter's claws scraped where they had stood a heartbeat before. Daniel scrambled up, plasma cutter in hand. "Stay down," he whispered to her. The hunter lunged again. Daniel swung. Sparks burst as metal clashed against claw. The impact jolted his arms, but he pushed through, slashing deep. The hunter roared and collapsed into the sand. Daniel's chest burned, his vision blurred. But he grabbed her again and stumbled toward the rocks. They reached the base of the cliff, shadows wrapping around them. Daniel crouched low. Pressing against the stone, his breaths came heavy. The hunters prowled nearby, red eyes glowing in the dark. The alien woman touched his arm weakly, her voice trembled. "Core can help you." Daniel shook his head quickly. "No, it's killing you already." Her eyes locked on his, glowing faint but steady. "Core, not only mine, can share." Before Daniel could answer, she pressed her glowing hand against his chest. Heat spread through him, sharp and burning, his body jolted. His breath caught for a moment. He thought his heart would stop, but then strength surged. His arm steadied, his lungs filled. The exhaustion melted away. His vision sharpened. The plasma cutter hummed brighter in his hand. Daniel stared at her, shocked. "What did you do?" Her faint lips curved into a weak smile. "Survival." Together, outside the rocks, hunters hissed, closing in. Daniel stood tall, his body renewed. His eyes blazed with fire, he whispered fiercely. "Then let's show them what together means." The desert night trembled with screeches. The hunt was not over, but Daniel no longer felt like prey. Now he felt like the storm. The desert was alive with screeches. Glowing red eyes moved like fire in the darkness. Daniel stood at the base of the cliff, plasma cutter burning in his hands. The alien woman leaned against the rocks, her chest glowing faint from the core inside her. But Daniel was no longer the same, her touch had changed him. Her energy surged through his veins. His body felt strong, his mind sharp. Every sound, every shadow came clear to him. The hunters closed in, circling the rocks. Their claws scraped against stone. Their hissing filled the air. Dozens of them, maybe more. Daniel knew this was the final stand. He glanced back at her. Her faint blue eyes glowed. Her voice was weak but steady. "They want me." "But if they take me, all life ends," Daniel frowned. His grip on the plasma cutter tightened. "All life?" She nodded, pressing her hand over the pulsing glow in her chest. "The core, it is seed of new world if they control it. They burn all." Daniel's chest tightened. He understood now, this wasn't just about her. It wasn't about him, this was about everything. She was carrying something that could create or destroy. The hunters hissed louder. One leaping forward, Daniel met it head on. His blade slashed through its chest. Black blood sprayed the sand, the creature collapsed. The others roared in fury, charging together. Daniel fought like a storm. His strikes faster than ever, every movement sharp. He cut one down, then another. Sparks lit the night, blood darkened the sand. But still they came, too many. Daniel's arms burned. Even with her strength inside him, he couldn't fight forever. Behind him, the alien woman whispered words in her own tongue. Her hands pressed harder against the core. The glow spread across her body. Brighter and brighter, Daniel turned, alarmed. "What are you doing?" Her eyes shone faint tears, her voice broke. "If I release the core, hunters destroyed, but gone." Daniel froze, his chest tightened like iron. She was ready to sacrifice herself. But he couldn't accept it, not after everything. Not after the bond they had built. He shook his head fiercely. "No, there has to be another way. You don't die here." "Not like this," the hunters charged again. Daniel swung hard, blood and sparks filling the air. But even as he fought, his heart twisted. He couldn't lose her, she whispered. "Daniel. Human heart strong, but must choose, save me. Or save all." His breath caught, his mind raced. The hunters surrounded them, claws raised. The desert shook with their fury. Then Daniel made his choice. He lunged forward. Not at the hunters, but back to her. He grabbed her glowing hands, pressing them down, stopping her from burning herself away. His voice was raw, loud. "We do this together, you hear me? Together." Her eyes widened, glowing brighter, she whispered. "Impossible." Daniel leaned close, his voice low but fierce. "Not for humans." The core pulsed wildly between them. Heat surged through his arms, through his chest, the glow spread. Wrapping both of them, the hunters screeched. Shielding their eyes, the light burst outward, blinding. A wave of energy exploded across the desert. The ground shook. Sand whipped into storms. The hunters screamed as the light tore through them. Their bodies disintegrated, vanishing into the night. Silence followed, only the wind moved, carrying the last echo of their cries. Daniel dropped to his knees, gasping, his arms shook. He looked down at her. She was still alive, glowing faint but steady. Her eyes stared at him in disbelief. "You shared it," she whispered. "No one ever could." Daniel gave a tired smile. "Guess no one told me I couldn't." She blinked. Then a small, fragile smile touched her lips. For the first time, she didn't look afraid. The desert was quiet now. The hunters were gone. The stars above burned bright. Daniel sat back against the rocks, still holding her close. His body weak but his spirit alive, she whispered softly. "Together. We saved life," Daniel nodded slowly. Closing his eyes. "Together," he repeated. The core inside her pulsed once, strong and steady, as if answering. And for the first time since the crash, Daniel felt hope, not just for himself, not just for her, but for something greater, something new. The night had been filled with death and fear. But now under the stars, two survivors, one human, one alien, had changed the fate of worlds, and their story was only beginning.